Bring on the summer blues. Today, I'm going to show you how to create summery blue decor using secondhand treasures and everyday items you probably already have at home. These ideas will help you bring the outdoors in without breaking the bank. Let's get creative, repurpose with style, and make your space feel like summer all season long. I just love sharing really quick DIYs that turn your space into something so high end and beautiful. This vase, along with two other bottles, I am spraying with Rust-Oleum matte finish, and that's just to help my paint stick to the bottles. When they're slick like this, it's really hard to get any type of paint, even chalk paint, to stick properly. One quick coat is all they need. I have been collecting this sort of seafoam green or aqua glass for many, many years. I have a little bit of a beachy or coastal theme in my family room, but I wanted to switch it up. I want it to look a little bit more high end and not so kitschy. Now, you could definitely leave these bottles frosted the way they are because I think that looks more like sea glass. I do have a couple of bottles like that. I'm going to be keeping them that way because they look really pretty. I'm going to take three different colors of blue chalk paint and give each of them a couple of coats. This is going to give me a really beautiful vase trio that I can display just as is, or I can add some florals and I can mix and match them with other pieces in my home. I decided to leave them with the matte finish that they had. You could also seal them with semi-gloss or gloss if you like more of a shiny look for your pieces. Here's how they turned out. I looked around in my stash for a bowl, and this is one that I had created. I put these two pieces together, the little bottom portion and the bowl itself, a few years ago when I made a little Easter project. Now, totally forgot to spray this shiny surface with my Rust-Oleum matte finish, which is still sitting there at the top corner. So make sure you do that step. Don't skip it because what I'm going to be doing next to this bowl did pull off a little bit of this base coat. You couldn't see it very much, but I noticed it when I looked up close. These blue colors were things that I mixed together using some white and some gray. I had some navy blue. I had more of a seafoam green, and I just played around with the colors in these different cups until I got the shades that I was looking for. I'm going to be using these three shades throughout this video to make things look more consistent and make them feel like a cohesive family of decor. I set the bowl aside so the bottom could dry, and then I repeated the paint color on the inside. I wanted this bowl to have some texture to it. I wanted to just add a little bit of white and give it more of a stone or a concrete kind of look, but with the blue color. So I'm using a damp paper towel and just dipping it into some white chalk paint, just kind of dabbing off the excess and then going onto the bowl with a light touch. I like to start with a lighter touch because I can always deepen the color, but it's really hard to take the color away without changing the complete look of the project. You could definitely do that if you have a little bit too much blue. You could take a paper towel and add some of the blue on, but then you'll have more of a blended look, and that would look beautiful too. I repeated the same process for the inside of the bowl and added a little bit of more white paint. The farther along I got with this project, the more I thought a little bit of darker white here and there would just add a little bit more dimension. Two colors on a project always looks beautiful, but I always like to add two colors on a project would be fine. The blue and the white looks beautiful, but I thought I would add a little bit more of a darker blue just to add a little bit more texture, a little bit more dimension, and perhaps make it look a little bit more like a pottery piece you would find at a high-end store. I added some of the navy blue that I used in my first project and just did some dry brushing and blending and giving it more of a mottled kind of look. So this is what I was talking about when you add another color on top, then the bottom color, the white, looks more blended and soft. I really love how this one turned out. I really enjoy using finials and wood pieces in my decor. So I'm going to be taking my rotary tool here with a tiny little drill bit. And I have this spindle piece that was already used for a different project. I'm going to repurpose it. I love using the drill attachment on this little rotary tool because it makes things so much easier. I've already drilled a hole in one of the other ones, and now what I'm going to do is simply add the finial on top. Now, this is the wrong finial. I wanted this on the other piece, and I'll realize that in just a second. But you can see how easy just drilling a pilot hole helps you to just screw in these finials. This one has been painted from a previous project, which I never showed you because I didn't like it. But I got these at Fabricland for 10 cents a pair. They were blowing them out, and I just couldn't believe my luck. So I grabbed a whole bunch of them. You'll probably see me working with these a little bit more as we move on. And here's where I remembered, oh yeah, this is not the one I want. I want this beautiful dark brown one on top because it matches perfectly with the distress marks of this spindle. And look at how beautiful that is. Now, I was going to be painting some of these blue, but that one is going to stay exactly as is. This one, however, has three different pieces of wood with it, so this is the one that I'm going to be painting blue. So I'm going to be using hot glue on this wood block. These are some that you can get, I think, at Michael's and different places. Anyway, I've got a whole bunch of them, and I'm just going to hot glue the pieces together, and then I'll just set it aside to dry just for a couple of minutes. Since both of these wood pieces are softer lines, they don't have any harsh corners, I'm going to take my sanding block and really sand down all of the sharp edges on the wood block underneath. So you can see me just going to town here, getting rid of some of those corners. I'm going to do the edges as well, and that just helps it all blend in and look like they belong together. The color I'm going to be using on this one is absolutely beautiful. It is also one of the colors I used on the vase trio. This is a chalk paint, so I'll only need one coat, and it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of the wood peeking through anyway. You won't notice that after the next step. Even though I love this color, I do want to give this piece a little bit of a distressed look. I'm using some crackle finish and a small paintbrush just to put the crackle in strategic areas. I don't want the whole thing crackled because I have a different idea for the rest of it. I'm using a really thick amount of the crackle because I do want some thick cracks coming through. And that also depends on how thick you add your next layer of paint. The thicker the paint, the more crackle you'll get. The crackle is now dry, and I'm using white chalk paint and a brush to just dab on where the crackle is. I'm not going to paint the whole thing right now. I'm just going to be putting the white paint in where the crackle areas are. And you can tell where those are is because it's a little shiny too. So it's not too difficult to figure out where you've put the crackle. The other thing that you need to remember not to do is to go over the white on the crackle more than once or twice. If you do that, if you continue to brush on the white paint or whatever accent color paint you're using, that will disturb the crackle and you won't get as much as you want. You can set this aside to dry on its own, or if you're impatient like I am, you can use a heat gun or a blow dryer. And you can already see the big cracks coming through here. I really love this technique. I think it makes things look old and chippy, and you can do so many different things with this, with the colors, the base color that you use, the top coat that you use. You can achieve so many beautiful looks with this type of technique. Once that crackle was completely dry, what I decided to do next was take this chip brush and just do a white chalk paint pouncing over all of the blue areas that were still visible. I didn't want to completely cover it, and I sure as heck did not want to cover any of the crackle that I just created. So I was very careful in where I put this next layer of paint. I'm really happy with how this project turned out, so I'm probably going to do a few more in the future using some different colors and textures. This is another one of my blue glass collections, or green or seafoam, whatever color you want to call it. You can see that it has all sorts of grapes and leaves on it, so it was definitely meant as a wine carafe. It did not have a stopper, which is fine. I don't use the stoppers anyway. And I'm going to be taking some of this white macrame cord that I picked up at my local dollar store. I'm going to start at the bottom using hot glue, and I'm going to cover all of that design that's on there. I thought I would be able to get away with only putting some hot glue in a few spots. This cord is so soft that I needed to put hot glue on every single portion of it. So this took me a little bit longer than expected, but I just turned on some of my favorite YouTube channels and listened to what they were doing, watched what they were doing a little bit, and before you know it, I was done. One thing that I was concerned about is that the grapes on this jar were just sticking out so far. I thought that maybe this cord wouldn't cover it up properly and maybe you would still be able to see a little bit of the outline. But I was wrong, pleasantly surprised, I guess. It all covered up really beautifully. Once I got more towards the top, I was really loving how this was turning out. And I'm just going to be going up until I cover up those little fronds that you can see. There's still a couple of little lines peeking out from the grapevine leaves. And I'm just going to go up there and then complete it. I want the blue glass on the neck of the bottle to stay as is. I truly enjoy making wreaths. And when I make them, I usually like to start with some type of wreath form, but I didn't have anything right now. So I'm taking this twine that has the wire in it from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut a piece and then wind it together to make a small circle. And that will just be the starting point of this project. A little bit of hot glue will hold the ends together. I'm actually going to put one inside of the other and then just hold it together until the glue has a chance to set. I'm starting off by adding some of these sort of lamb's ear like greenery. These came from the Dollar Tree, and I believe they had some white and some purple flowers on them. I just removed those little stems, and now I'm going to just glue these in. Now, I did find that I was going around in my usual everything has to go in one direction kind of mode. But then when I completed it, I decided that I wanted to do something a little different. So I actually took these pieces and bent them so they would be sticking straight out. Sorry, this is a little fuzzy, but here you can see where I bent the original pieces so they would be sticking straight out instead of on that angle. I wanted this wreath to be more wispy and not so full. I wanted you to be able to see through it a little bit. The wreaths that I make tend to usually be really thick and full. And although I love that, I wanted to do something a little more light and airy for summer. Another thing that I like to do is if I don't have a specific type of floral stem that I want, I make my own. I always keep the leftover stems from florals that I take apart. And what I did was take three little eucalyptus leaves and a bunch of white baby's breath and put them together on one stem. And that's what you see me gluing on here. All the florals that I'm using for this wreath came from either a Dollarama, which is local to Canada, or Dollar Tree. I didn't need to go and find a whole lot of extra florals. I had a bunch of this stuff in my stash, and whenever I see them at dollar stores and I know that they're beautiful. For example, this bright green with the little white flowers that I'm putting on right now came from Dollarama. It is so pretty, but these fly off the shelves really quickly. So whenever I'm in the store and I see them, I'll buy them because I know at some point I'm going to use them for a project. Now I'm going to be adding some smaller stems that I pulled off of the large branch, and I'm going to use those as fillers around the center of the wreath just to start making it look a little bit more full. The only thing that I was missing for this wreath was some blue florals. I couldn't find any at the dollar stores, so I decided to make my own. This is the baby's breath that you can get at the Dollar Tree. I had a whole bunch sitting in a box that I forgot I had. I put a little bit of watered down blue paint into a squirt bottle, and now I'm just going to squirt it on and let them dry. This is a really fun and easy way to create the florals in the color that you need. So, for example, if I was doing something in pink or purple or even yellow, I would do the same thing. The best way to get a color to look the way you want it is to have a white flower to start. I also have these Dusty Miller stems that I want to make a little bit of a dark blue color. So I've done the same thing. I've just got some watered down dark blue paint. And this time I've got it in a cup and I'm very easily able to just dip it in and then set these aside to dry. This color turned out really vibrant and beautiful, and it adds the perfect amount of depth in color to my wreath. I've already attached some longer sprigs of the light blue flowers on, and now I'm just going to trim down some of the others and put them more towards the center. I'm really loving the pale blue on this wreath. It just brings in the perfect touch of summer sky. I have had these blue tulips for many years. I purchased them originally from Michael's, and I've just been using them every year, either outdoors or sometimes just in a vase or on my mantle. And for this one, I decided to add some of these to the back of the wreath just so they wouldn't be so big front and center and that you would just kind of see them in the background. So I'm going to be trimming some of the stems that are too long, and then I'll just use hot glue again to put them in place. I think a wreath just with these blue tulips would look amazing as well. Now it's time to add the Dusty Miller florals that I did in the dark blue, and that just brings everything together. I love these two blue colors together. I think this whole wreath is looking really pretty. I am going to be turning it around again and adding a little bit of some greenery to the bottom side. I'm actually going to be using the lamb's ear that you see off to the right there. I wanted to have a little bit of fullness right in the center of the wreath, but still leave it wispy and airy on the outside. Now I'm adding some Spanish moss right where the twine was. There's a lot of hot glue sitting there, and I wanted to camouflage it. And I also wanted to give the illusion of a thicker wreath form. This is also a way to incorporate a little bit more of nature into this project. I've turned the wreath around again, and here is where I'm gluing some of the lamb's ear just onto the twine to give that little bit of depth and weightiness more into the center of the wreath. I'm really impressed with myself how this wreath turned out. It is so pretty, and I love the addition of the multiple shades of blue. This is a bean pot. If you don't know what a bean pot is, it's actually a pot where you bake beans into it. You can see how old this is from all the crazing. I got it at the thrift store for $4.99, and the reason I got it is because I loved that brown glaze on it. It was missing the lid, which is fine by me because I'll probably put some florals in it anyway. I'm going to clean it up and get it ready for its makeover. I have truly been inspired lately by studio pottery. I love all the shiny glazes. I love all the colors that you can see that are blended together. And I decided to recreate something like that with this pot. I'm starting off by using one of my blue shades that I used already in this video. And I'm going to be using my Staalmeester pointed sash brush, which will give me the least amount of brush strokes. I created some wavy lines on the bottom portion of where I painted the blue, and now I'm just using a smaller brush to make the line look a little bit more clean. The reason I did this is because some studio pottery looks like it has a glaze on it that would maybe be only partially dipped, or it would have a little bit of a drip to it. I wanted this to look really organic. Once that base color was dry, I used this little chip brush and started with the next color of paint, which is sort of like a blue green, probably like a deep aqua, maybe you could call it. And I'm just going ever so lightly onto the pot. I want there to be some texture and I want there to be a little bit of depth with the color. Again, my rule of thumb is to use a very light touch to start, and if you want a little bit more, you can add it later. I really love the glaze on the brown because it was really easy to just use my finger or a paper towel and wipe off any of the paint that overlapped. I could have stopped here, but I decided to add a little bit more color with this sort of beigey caramel color. And I think it's turning out really pretty. It's really an inspiration. It's something that I am looking not at something, but I have sort of something in mind of what I have seen before. So I'm just trying to recreate it to the best of my ability. Here's an example of some studio pottery that is vintage, and this is sort of the vibe that I'm going for. I apologize. This is hard to see because I'm almost off the screen, but I'm taking a small artist brush and going into that same sort of beige caramel paint. And I'm just drawing a line right on top of the blue just to give it more definition. Now, once I get this done, I find that I don't like it as much as I thought. So the look in my head that I was going for didn't transfer out onto the project. Paint can be covered, it can be changed. It really doesn't matter if you make an oops or if your vision changes as you're crafting. What I decided to do was take that same paint and just drag it up just a little bit into the blue and then use my finger to kind of dab it and blend it in. And that started to look a lot nicer. I let the pot sit overnight, and when I got into my craft room the next day, I decided that it was still a little not finished. I liked the beige paint on it, but I found that it was a little overwhelming when you looked at it from afar. So I'm taking another little chip brush and some navy blue paint and very lightly just going through it, adding a little bit more color and just a little bit more variation to it. You may be thinking, wow, Sandra, that's a lot of work. But to find a pottery piece like this at an antique store or a vintage market, you'd be paying probably hundreds of dollars. Even something that is brand new is going to run you a lot of money. So why not find something that you can create yourself? It'll fit perfectly into your decor and make it yourself. It's just so much fun to play around with all of these different colors. And as I said earlier, if it doesn't work out and you don't like it, you can always paint it over again. I decided to add some of the dark blue to the top rim, and that just kind of brought everything together. It's all really beautifully blended, and I'm really loving this look. If you thought I was done, I've got one more color for you. This is called Coffee Bean and it's from Folk Art. And I'm going to be using the same chip brush and I'm adding some of that brown into the very bottom. I found that the stark line between the blue and the dark brown just needed a little bit more of a blending of it. So I'm just using that color, blending it in a little bit, and look at how pretty. I added a little tiny bit of the brown on the top of the rim, and once it dried, I gave it a couple of coats of gloss spray paint in clear just to seal it up so it wouldn't chip. Here's how it turned out. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you enjoyed my summer blues. I think they all turned out fabulous. Of course, I'm a little biased because I created them. I hope these decor ideas inspire you to bring a little bit of the summer blues into your home this year. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.